Hello, everyone. I'm Ellen King, King Family Vineyards. Welcome. And I'd like to tell you a few short stories about how this place came to be. So I hope you'll join me. This actually is the very spot that my husband David and I drove up to in 1995 when had just moved here from Texas, and we were looking for a farm to purchase. We actually drove to this very spot. And we were looking out at an alfalfa field and a tractor raking alfalfa as we were sitting here in the car. I was terrified that we were trespassing and going to get in big trouble. My husband said, "Oh, it's fine," and I said, "Oh, we're trespassing." And the gentleman on the tractor waved to us. And right after that, my husband said, "See, I told you it was okay." So we sat here for a couple of minutes right here at this turn. And then we drove out because we actually didn't realize that this farm was for sale at the time. So we found out a couple weeks later that it was indeed for sale. And it all kind of fell into place after that. My husband had started learning to play polo when he was in law school in Houston. And he really wanted to have a field where he could practice and invite friends to play and basically retire playing some polo here without having to do a lot of traveling. So we were actually looking for about 13 acres of flat ground, which is almost impossible to find in this county. But here it is. So that's really the main reason this particular piece of ground was chosen, sweetie. So I do ride. I've never played polo myself. I've watched more polo than most humans, I think. And I do trail ride here on the farm. But since my husband has passed away 5 years ago, my daughter-in-law, Allie, has taken over the polo program and is now teaching and has started a polo school and is playing polo all summer and all fall. Here we are in the original vineyard that was put in starting in 1998. After getting the horses all settled in the barn, we actually had a gentleman named Tom Vandenberg who stopped in to our farmhouse and asked if he could lease or purchase 10 acres of the farm to grow French vinifera wine grapes. And we thought, boy, that sounds like a crazy idea. So we thanked him for coming by, and he had done some decent research, we thought. So it got a conversation going, and I guess you would say he actually planted the seed that night of getting this vineyard started. So the initial planting was 8 acres, and rows 1 through 33 were all Viognier, and starting with row 33 to 67 is Merlot. So those were the first 2 varieties that we put in, and we did all the work ourselves. So we planted Viognier because at the time it was we were all supposedly finding out that it was a great grape to grow in Virginia. So we took the chance that that would be a good grape to grow. And so this was the beginning. And it was very, very long days, hot days, cold days. But we slept really great at night after working out here. And it was pretty much 7 days a week. Originally, when we first started making wine, we were making wine in the one original building that we built. And that building was basically 1/3 tasting room, 1/3 barrel room, and 1/3 tank room. We actually outgrew that building in 2012 and started building this building so that we could expand. Our 3 sons actually have all returned to the roost and are all in business here full time. So as each of our sons came into the business, we added more grapes and more tanks in order to help support their families. So here we are. So here's the tank room. We're going to walk right now and show you all the barrel room. Here is our barrel room. I believe we are between 400 and 500 wine barrels at this point. Most of our red barrels are on the left side of this building, most of the white barrels to the right. We've got some extra large puncheon barrels along that wall, which we use for our Cabernet Franc. We also have a concrete egg here, which is where we ferment some of our Viognier. And I know all these barrels look like they're just resting and there's nothing much that happens once the wine goes into barrel. But there is a tremendous amount of work here because the barrels actually all have to be cleaned several times during their lifetime in here before bottling. My husband and I, years ago, actually in 2007, took a road trip to Lexington, Kentucky, and decided to do part of the Bourbon Trail. So we visited several distilleries and ended up at Woodford Reserve, had a wonderful tour, and then at the end of the tour, we were back in the barrel house watching the barrels being opened and emptied, and the empty barrels were being rolled out of the side of the building and into trucks. And I asked our tour guide where the barrels were going, and he told me they were going to Europe for making port. So I thought, well, there's an idea. So I asked him if it was possible to purchase barrels, and he said sure. So we actually took all of the luggage out of our SUV and put 2 Woodford Reserve barrels in the back of the car, drove home with them, and asked our winemaker to try making a port-style wine. And he said, well, I'll give it a try. So that was the beginning of our wine that we call 7. And it is red wine that is slightly sweet but very high in alcohol, so about 18% alcohol, or the legal limit in Virginia. Wonderful with dark chocolate. And we started, of course, that vintage was 2 barrels. The following year in 2008, we made 4 barrels. Following year, we made 8 barrels, and then 16, and now we make 24 barrels a year. So anyway, I take a tiny, tiny bit of credit for this one. So I'm thinking back over almost 25 years of being at this place, on this farm, in this beautiful part of the world. I feel super lucky to have been here, enjoyed this place. The view never gets old, and it's a wonderful place to share with the many, many people who come through here as our guest in the tasting room. And the greatest blessing of all has been having our 3 sons, their wives, and their children here with me, especially now that David has passed away. To have us all together in one place is incredibly special. The thing I'm the most proud of, I'm the most proud of being a mother to my children and a grandmother to my grandchildren. They've been the greatest gifts of all. And to anybody watching this little video, I'd love to wish you a very, very happy Mother's Day from our family. I hope it's a great one. I hope you celebrate it in the best way possible.